This next section is called Tricks with Your Hand, and we're going to begin with doing a trick called blue vein reading. You ask your spectators to think of a number between 1 and 5, and the most popular number they will think of will be the number 3. With this, you then turn your hand and face it downwards towards the spectator. Hopefully the camera should be able to pick this up, but because the hand is downwards, all the blood is rushing down to the hand, and it's actually making the veins on the back show up a lot more deeply in dark blue. The more you tense your hand, the more the veins start to get really bluer and bluer. If you look down, there's 2 strong stripes coming straight down the back of the hand, and then it splits into sections across the hand. The main 3 which are visible is this one, and this one. They're the 3 veins which, if they were thinking of the number 3, you show them and show your veins are thinking of the number 3. If they are by chance thinking of another number, such as 4, there are other veins slightly visible around the side of the hands, and you can use those by just rotating your hands slightly and showing them the 4th vein. Again, if the 5th, you could actually show them both, but 9 times out of 10 they will always think of the number 3, and if they don't, then just use the number 3 in another trick later. This next trick is called fist fight. All I'm going to do is ask my spectator to come here, please. If you'd like to help me, just stand to the side here. I'm going to place my hands on top of you. I want to see how strong you actually are, okay? I'm going to place my hands on top of you like this. I want you to place one finger onto this side of the hand, and one finger on the other side of the hand, and try and push them apart. And they just come naturally apart. That's quite an easy thing to do, because the fingers are just bending apart. Now I'm going to take your strength out of you. I'm going to take all your strength by going like that. Now you have no strength whatsoever. Try it again. It's practically impossible to do, but don't worry, I'm going to make your strength come straight back. And one more time, they come straight apart. Thank you very much for helping me. Go and sit back down. This trick is called fist fight, another hypnosis type effect or psychic effect. What we're going to do for our fingers, when the hands come apart, the thumbs are the important part of this trick. When you make fists, the thumbs go on the outside of the fist. When they rest on top of each other, the hands will now just simply slip over each other. They simply will not connect in any way, they'll just slip apart. However, when the thumbs are inside of the fists, for some strange reason the hands are a lot more stronger, there's a lot more grip, there's a lot more tensity in the hands, you simply cannot move them apart. If in fact you've got any doubt about this, the next step to this approach is when you make the fists, you have the bottom thumb pointed upwards inside the fist of the right hand. It looks exactly the same, but now it really is locked together because it's just grasping the thumb. There's no way these hands can come apart no matter what you try and do, unless you really want to break someone's thumb, which I don't recommend. If you're worried about that, just bend the thumb at a small knuckle so the knuckle's going into the fist. Gives you that locking point. But ultimately the trick as it is, just the thumbs go inside the fist are enough to stop them from moving, but when outside the fist, they slide apart. It's a great trick for when you're supposed to be removing somebody's strength. You can kind of get a good reaction from that. The next trick is a big trick in magic. Big famous magicians have been known for performing this one. It's called hands turn up. I'm going to ask everybody out there to help me with this one. All you need to do is hold out your hands in front of you and give them a good shake. And stop. Perfect. Take your hands and turn them away from you. Cross your hands over and link your fingers together so they're nicely tightly locked. I want you to make sure they're really tight, make sure they're really securely tied together. Make sure both thumbs are in the same direction though, but lock them nicely tight. Now what we're going to do is on the count of 3, we're going to take my thumbs here and twist them so they're facing the ceiling. You ready? 1, 2, 3. You don't seem to have been able to do that. But don't worry, because I'm going to tell you how. This is a nice classic magic. It was performed on stage. It's been performed on big national TV for the whole of America, but they turned the camera away right when they did the move, which was nice and clever of them. All we're going to do is take the hands and place them away. We're going to give them a good shake. It's kind of a warm-up exercise. It helps warm up the people. Then turn your hands away from you, cross them over, and interlock your fingers. Turn your hands from left to right as though showing the audience that your hands are interlocked. This is where the actual move takes place, because what you need is a small misdirection move. When you go, and now make sure both your thumbs are facing in the same direction, you separate your hands for that slight moment and the thumbs are now facing down. When your hand comes back up, it rotates and interlocks back into the finger position. To the spectators it looks exactly the same as it did before, but this time you can now do this, while in previously you could not. Again, watch again, I'm going to cross the hands. Tell them to keep the hands locked together at all times. Make sure both thumbs are facing in the same direction, but keep them locked together. If you saw that as well, I was moving my hands as I did the move, And that way, when you do this trick, you can actually make it as though your hands are twisted in midair. I do this trick on my kids show, and hopefully you'll see some later on, and it really does work for the entire audience. It's amazing in effect. It's always worth doing, it's always worth knowing something as well. This next trick is called hand chopper. It's a variation of my finger trick earlier, finger through finger. What we're going to do is chop one hand right through the other. Because I don't have my blades with me today, we're just going to use this hand as a knife. We're going to go 1, 2, 3. Oh wait, it's a bit, well, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Ow! Oh! Put my hands in one piece. This is hand chopper. It's a very similar principle to finger through finger. What I'm going to do is go 1, 2, and on the third time hit it. The first time I do it, it actually doesn't work. I just say ow, as though it's not worked. It helps with the reinforcement of the trick happening in a few seconds time. If it doesn't work once time, expect it to happen again. So when you go 1, 2, and then it hits, on the third attempt you go 1, 2, and on the third time, again I'm coming down at an angle this time. From the first time I was going straight down, this time I'm going to come at an angle and go at a diagonal path. The finger slides off the fist, down and over the fingers, and back underneath the arm like so. So it goes like this. I've had people screaming over this trick. It's been quite amazing reactions I got to it. The only thing I do need to point out though is bashing your wrist will hurt, and I only do the trick once or twice in a show because it really my hands aren't that strong anyway, and they do start to get just start to hurt after a while. So don't do it over and over again. But the trick itself is an amazing trick for what it's worth, and it's a hand guillotine trick without the guillotine. Wow. This next trick is called hand snap backwards. What I'm going to do is take my hand and go right around the hand and then straighten it back up, like so. Somewhere in the vein of that. The idea is you're going to switch your hands so that one hand looks like the position of the other hand. I'm not exactly wearing the perfect clothing for this because you want to be masked in the shadows, and you can probably see me against this blue wall against the black curtain. But by making one hand look like the other hand and curling the thumb into the fist so they can't see the thumb backwards, I can then twist my hand, snap it as though it was going all the way backwards, and then bring it all the way back. It works when you've got the perfect circumstances. Not always is it best, especially when you've got a bright background behind you need to mask. When you're in an open field where they've got less things to compare you against a certain environment, you can make it look as though your hand is just snapped right back to the wrist, which is kind of an eerie expression. When it works, it really does work. This next trick is called the locked hand test. It's a psycho-hypnotic trick. What you're going to ask your spectators to do is place both hands in front of them, turn them so the palms are faced towards each other, and interlock the fingers. Then push their hands outwards and lift them over their head. They will then find that their hands are slowly being glued together. The fingers are locking between each other. They will find their fingers unable to lock. They cannot release their fingers no matter what they do. However, as soon as they relax, come down, they can unlock their fingers. This has 3 little elements involved to make this trick work. The first thing is you're going to push their hands out as far as you can. This stretches the muscles in their arms. When their fingers are interlocked, without any movement, without any slack in the muscles, it is very difficult to pull the hands apart. When you turn the hands backwards, it pulls the tendons on the wrist, which again makes it very difficult for you to pull the hands apart. The knuckles are actually bigger than the finger joints. So when you interlock the fingers, the knuckles press against each other. You'll find the knuckles cannot unleash. And between each of the fingers is moisture caused from sweat of the hands. That almost forms a small slight adhesive glue, which sticks the fingers together. When you lift it over their head, you're increasing all the tendons to the maximum. The glue, the knuckles, the fets all work together, and now you'll find the hands will not come apart unless you tell the spectators to relax and then just simply release their hands, and they'll usually just slide them apart. It's called a locked hand test, and it's done in many psycho-hypnotic shows just to prove that they've actually got some kind of control over your body. This next trick is called the Spectators hand twist, and I need someone to come up here and help me. Would you like to come and help me, please? Come stand here. What I'm going to do is take your hand like this, I'm going to hold it up and I'll go just about works perfectly. It's an interesting trick this. It's more of an optical illusion, it's just what they see they're not used to, and it kind of gets the impression that the hand is twisted. There's a few parts up to it though. When we hold out the hand like so, I'm going to hit the knuckle joint with 2 fingers, which pushes the hand forward. I'm going to then use this hand and force the hand downwards and flat, and I'm going to twist the hand like this, as though the hand is just twisted like that. I'm going to take the hand all the way back down again, let it down, wiggle it like this, and then just release it and let it slack, and so the hand is restored. It works for spectators. You find a spectator from the audience. It's a nice little quick trick to do. Again, hold it up, slam it down, and a twist and around, because it's not a natural thing people do. It looks kind of weird and gross. Make it flop before straightening it out and apparently restoring the hand. That was called the spectator's hand twist. Thank you. This next little trick is two left hand. It's more of a joke really, but it actually gets a good response. What you want to do is just show that the reason I can do all these sleight of hand tricks is because I've got two left hands. This is a quick visual gag. All you're going to do is show both hands with the thumbs on the same side. By moving the hands upwards and downwards, they don't have a chance to focus on where the fingernails are, and it looks as though both hands are now left hands. You're moving up and down. But in fact, this right hand is palm outwards, and this one is palm inwards, so you can see the thumbs, you see the hands, they are now moving in exact the same fashion. Two left hands, it's a quick visual gag, but it does actually, it helps to have a lot of these gags when you're breaking up doing lots and lots of body tricks, to break them up from doing trick after trick after trick, to have a few gags in between there, still related to the body tricks, but they actually make it a bit more of a show. This next trick is called Bloody Murder. This is a variation of some older effects, but we've added a full routine to make it work. If you've got a room of people, this works best. What you're going to do is turn away from the crowd, blindfold yourself if necessary, or just simply close your eyes, and say that you're going to try and deduce who the murderer is. One person with your eyes closed is to choose themselves to be you're going to ask the group of people to choose someone to be the murderer, and then choose somebody else to be the victim. The murderer is to take an imaginary knife and pretend to stab the person in the back of the head. You have to kind of scoop out the brains and do lots of cool things, and you need to keep on going for about 30 seconds. In this approach, you're going to ask, now take an imaginary knife and take your victim and stab them in the back of the head. Stab them right cross out a small path. Why don't you cut out a star on the back of the head, just for the fun of it? You can take out a scoop of the brain and give it to someone to eat. Keep on stabbing into the brain. Make sure you've got a lot of the things. You've seen Hannibal, haven't you? He's had a great job at stabbing into brains. Make sure you give a good long approach. Now, once you've done this, once the victim has been stabbed several times in the head, he's now to fall to the floor. Has he done that? Well done. Now the rest of you, I want you to just relax, open up your hands. Nobody tell me who the murderer is, keep it nice and quiet, and at that point, that's when you, the magician, turn around and you go, well, right now we're going to try and work out who it was who committed the crime. And most crimes work by examining people's fingerprints. I'd like to also open up your hands so we can see the fingerprints on your hands. Everybody in the room holds out their hands so you can look at the fingerprints. You look at the fingerprints, and within 2 seconds you know exactly who the murderer was, and you're putting that person out. How you know is because the murderer was holding their hand above somebody's head, supposedly stabbing them as part of the routine. What they didn't know was while they were doing this, all the blood was rushing out of their hands and down their arm. So now their hand, if you can see, is whiter than it was before. This hand is very red. This hand is now whiter because it's been held up for a while. What you're doing is the fingerprints mean nothing for the trick. As soon as they've done all these effects where they've stabbed the hand and had all the play acting about it, once their hands are out front, the first thing you're looking for is the white hand. With this one, you can see that this hand, when it's been up, it's a bit whiter. This one's a lot more redder at the moment. As soon as you can see that one person has one hand whiter than the other, that's the person you know is the murderer. With that approach, it's a matter of just simply deducing and playing with the acting. It's a good Sherlock Holmes mystery, and it's a great little effect if you want to do something with a small story involved. This next trick is called Downfall. This is another psycho-hypnosis trick. Would you like to come and help me in this one, please? Come stand here. With your hand, hold out your hand like so. Now, do you know that you've got hypnotic powers?
Yes.
Well, that's great, because that's what we're going to use today. We're going to use some strength techniques to try and force you not to move your hand. It's a pretty clever thing. For instance, if I was to go like this, I can force your hand straight down like that. But if I go like this, hold out your hand again. I want to show this great strength, great strength, great strength. Feel the strength. Just try and fight me. Can you fight me? You can't fight me. You've got now super strength. But if I just give you a click, relax, and you should all be okay. This trick is another hypnosis trick. It's done with the principle that when you ask someone to hold out their hand like this, you're not going to touch them straight away. You're going to talk to them about hypnosis, strength, things like this. And after a while, the hand is getting weaker. I only did it in a short spasm there, but the longer you talk, the weaker the hands are going to get. When it means you actually push down after a minute of talking, their hand is pretty weak at this time. All the blood has rushed out of it, and they can no longer have the force to resist you as much. Another thing is you never really told them what you were going to do. You were talking about strength and hypnosis. You never said you were going to push the hand down, so they never knew to stop you. However, in this approach, well, the second time I did it, we brought your hand up, only a short amount of time went by, and you knew what I was going to do, so this time you knew to resist, and this time your hand couldn't go down. So supposedly, for the magical value, I've used magical strength to give you superior strength to mine, and keep your hand held up. Well, in fact, it's just a matter of timing, keeping things going and letting the blood rush. Thank you. This next trick is called Forever Falling. It uses a principle for an assistant, and it's actually a very powerful trick. I have my assistant on the floor here in front of me. Would you like to have a look? For this first part of the trick, I'm going to ask you to turn over and hold out your hands in front of you like so. Okay, I don't know if you can see that. Wonderful. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. I'm going to lift your hands up. Okay, and I just want you to simply relax. Simply allow yourself to imagine you're on a beach in the middle of nowhere. There's no one around, it's nice and quiet. The sea is buzzing into the sand. Just imagine nothing but pure enlightenment. The sun's beaming light is warming over you. You can hear the seagulls maybe in the distance and the cliffs as the rock water hits the cliffs. Just imagine this clear, simple blue skies as the slight clouds glaze over the sand, and you're just lying down on the beach, just getting a nice warm tan. Nothing more than nothing less. Now I just want you to simply relax, keep nice and open. What I'm going to do is slowly lower your hands. I should lower your hands, and lower your hands. And after a while you should start to feel something strange. You start to feel yourself melting because this is quicksand you're in, and you're now in the middle of the quicksand. Can you feel yourself in the quicksand?
Yeah.
No problem there, just wake up, turn up and stand up for the audience. There's another trick similar to this effect, and we're going to try this one as well now. Would you like to sit down? We'll lie down again. I know, standing up, sitting down. There's another one. Close up your eyes. What I'm going to do is lift your legs like so. Again, I want you to imagine yourself on a beach. See yourself lying on the sand. Feel the nice warm water buzzing onto the sand of this beach. You're getting a nice tan. You can feel the blue skies. You can feel the clouds rush over the horizon. You might be able to see a few small people paddling in the distance, nothing much more. What I'm going to do now is going to try and merge your feet through the floor itself. I'm going to slowly lower your feet, and about now you should be feeling yourself touching the floor, and now you're going to be sinking right into the floor. Did you feel yourself sink into the floor?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. Stand up. Thank you for helping me in that trick. You want to sit back down. This is an amazing trick. It has some great atmosphere, especially if you use it with something like the X-Men theme, because you've got X-Men who can walk through walls. I sometimes involve that into the pattern of the trick. The idea is when you lift someone's legs, all the blood is rushing out of their legs. You keep their legs raised for approximately 30 seconds, or the arms raised for 30 seconds, and when the blood is drained out, you slowly begin to lower the legs. As you lower the legs, as soon as you get to about halfway between you and the floor, they will feel as though they've just hit the floor. The remaining distance they've got to hit between the legs and the floor, they will actually feel themselves going into the floor itself. Try it yourself. It's amazing, it works, and it feels really creepy. You can do this with the arms, and you can do this with the legs. Usually, in most circumstances, I do it just with the legs, but if I get asked to repeat the trick a couple of times, then I switch to the arm method. It just kind of breaks it up and turns it into something slightly differently. An important factor with this trick is the story you give, telling them to relax, lie on a beach. I don't know why, but it does actually help with the trick. It does actually give it a bit more of an emphasis that makes the trick work a tiny bit more stronger. So I do recommend you give them some kind of spell just like that, because it does do the job. But it's a very strong trick. Try it yourself, because it really is a cool effect to experience yourself. This next trick is called Growing Arm. What I'm going to do is make one arm grow bigger than the other. Watch as I take this hand, I push it right out here. So now it's twice as big as that one. But I'll take this one and I'll push it right out here. And now they're both the same size again. It's nice as a quick trick, but it does work a great deal. What we're going to do is take my hand and place it parallel with my body like this. The important thing is the sleeve is touching the side of my body. When I pull my hand out, the sleeve remains in place, but the arm physically comes out the sleeve as though it was physically growing bigger. When I place it in front of me, this shoulder is actually slightly more forward than this one, which is slightly more backwards, which makes the arm look bigger than it actually is. I can then do the same with this arm, again leaving the sleeve to stay in its position but the arm coming out forward, and now we have both arms at the same size. The important addition to this trick is the keeping the sleeve in place, because it really does look like it's physically growing in length. You can use this when it's like Mr. Fantastic from the Fantastic Four with his stretching arms. You can play about with this illusion. The other effect with this is a similar kind of parallel effect, which is the shrinking arm. With that, you use the wall or some kind of local environment. You have the hands touching, and then you give the little rub to the elbow, as though it was getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And then when you do the same thing again, you push the elbow forward, and it looks as though the hand has grown smaller. Because this elbow is back, this elbow is forward, you're actually doing the exact same effect but in reverse. To shrink this arm, you just give it a little shrink, lower the arm slightly as though it's shrinking, and then you can say they're both the same size again. So the growing arm and shrinking arm, and they both work quite nicely together. You can do a nice little routine and add it to other tricks as well. This next trick is called Knot in Sync. I'm going to require someone to help me. Would like to come and help me for this trick? I'd like you to just stand by the stools here. Hold out your hands nice in front of you. Okay, close your eyes. I want you to feel, I'm going to place a series of helium balloons and tie them around one of your wrists here. And I'm also going to place a pile of heavy books and place them onto this hand here. Just slowly allow yourself to relax. Feel the books and feel the balloons. You feel the books and the balloons. If you feel the books and the balloons work on you, your balloons are starting to lift your arm into the air, and the balloons are starting to push, the books are starting to push your hand down, and your hands separate. Open up your eyes and have a look. Your hands have now moved, but do you see the book of the balloons? That's the trick itself. Go and sit back down, thank you. This is another psycho kind of, I always say that, but this is a kind of a psychic stunt. It's kind of telling them something, but its actual fact is a matter of normal body reactions. Most people are right hand dominated. If you've got left hand dominated, you'll find it works the other way around. But when you hold out your hands in front, after a while your hands will get tired, but for some strange reason, with me I'm right handed, the right hand goes up and the left hand goes down. This is a normal natural response, but what you're going to try and do is just push this a bit forward by tying balloons, supposedly helium balloons, which naturally would go upwards to one hand, and put books onto the other hand. This gives the impression in their head that one hand should go down and one hand should go up. Add it together and you can get the idea that the hands are separating apart. When you involve this as some kind of hypnosis trick to prove that you've got powers over their brain, you're making them see things which aren't actually there, you can get a good reaction. I ask them to close their eyes because it just takes it a bit further into the field of hypnosis, but it's not really important. It will happen in almost any circumstances. If the person is left hand dominated, then usually it's the left hand that goes up and the right hand that goes down. It's just something that you might want to make a note of because it could come in useful depending on where your presentation is. This next trick is called Hercules Arm. I'm going to require someone to help me again. Would you come and help me please, Mo? Come and stand where the stool is. I'd like to place one hand on your hip like so, like it was a teapot. Now what I'm going to try and do is lift your hand off your hip. Try and stop me, try and resist. That's pretty strong. She's pretty strong, this one. But let me try and zap that strength from you. Watch. Gone. All her strength is now gone. Try again, try and resist me. Try again, try and really resist me. Really resist me. Oh, you might not have it. I'll give you the strength straight back. Go on, one more time. It's not going to work, but thank you very much for helping me. She did a great job there. Actually, come back over here because we're going to use it in the demonstration as well. I asked them to go back all the way. This is called Hercules Arm, and it's again a fact of what you're telling them. You're actually doing something slightly differently. Once their hand is on their wrist, you're going to take a firm grip. You're going to use one hand to grip the top arm, the top part of the arm here, and the bottom hand to take almost the wrist. When you want to lift the hand, off the wrist, hip, you use the force of this hand, you just hold lightly here, and you just simply lift it. Because leverage allows you to lift their hand right off the hip without any problem. However, when you don't want to lift it, you're actually going to try and lift with this hand, the left hand on the wrist. You just tighten your grip here as though you were trying to lift with here, but you're not. And that way, you cannot move because leverage will stop you from moving their hand. It's physically, or practically impossible unless you're super strong. But by using this hand, you've actually got the method to pull upwards. So it's a matter of taking hold, using tight tension as though you're using both hands, but when you want to lift, use this hand. When you want to stop lifting, use this hand. But keep tension on both accounts, and you'll have the idea that you've given them super strength. It works pretty well. This next trick is called the rising arms. Like my assistant Anna here, to press both your hands, palm back to the hands, and press as much as you can into the door frame. Press and add all your pressure to the door frame. Press them into the frame. Use all your strength, all your might, push them inside. Putting all your pressure, you're pushing really hard?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the minute I'm going to count down from 10. As soon as I reach 0, I want you to stay up to here and just let your arms relax and see how your arms respond, okay? Keep all the pressure, build up pressure, keep on pressing into the door frame, keep it pressed. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Take a step forward. Your arm's rising now, aren't
Yeah.
Is that spooky?
Yeah.
That's great. You go sit back down and I'll talk to these people here. This is the rising arms trick. It works with everybody, just get someone to try it out. All they have to do is add as much pressure as possible to the arms, to the hands, as they press into the door frame. When they step out, they naturally rise. The longer they stay in the door frame for, the better the effect will become. If you can get them to stay in there for up to 2 minutes, you can really get it to play and you can really get a good response from them. It's always a good idea to have a countdown from 10 to 0 just before you finish, because it adds an extra bit longer to the routine and you keep the motivation going of them talking. But that's a natural working trick, just try it and you should have great fun with it. This next trick is called idle hands. Would you like to come and help me please? It's a kind of hypnosis type effect. All I'm going to ask you to do is hold out your hand like to the audience there. Close your eyes. Do you feel that pressure? You feel that pressure nice and clearly? Good, okay. What I'm going to do is when you feel that pressure, I want you to slowly lift your hand into the air. Try it again. Try now, lifting your hand into the air. Okay, wonderful. I'm going to relieve the pressure and it just comes float down again. Okay, keep your eyes nice and closed. What I'm going to do is try and give you some pressure. Do you feel that pressure now? Rise.
Yes.
As though. Okay. And then I'm not going to say anything now. I'm going to let the cameras do the talking here. When you feel the pressure, just raise your hand. Wonderful. We'll try this. A spectator will have a spectator. Whenever you feel the pressure, only then raise your hand. Wonderful. Thank you. Open up your eyes. You did a great job there. This little trick is a very good classic of magic. It's done with a lot of psychic and hypnosis tricks. The actual secret lies nothing in the hands. This is where everybody's looking, it's where you've all told them to look. But what you're actually doing is standing on their toes. You might not be able to see this with the camera, but my foot is actually on top of their foot. When I say I'm exacting pressure on their hands, I'm actually putting pressure on their foot. And the more I press on the foot, they're told to raise their hand. But when I take my foot off it, the pressure's left, the hand comes back down again. I have told them to feel the pressure. When they feel the pressure, move the hands. What I'm actually doing is not touching their hand. They think the pressure that is their foot is the pressure I'm talking about, while it's the audience who think it's the pressure on the hand they're talking about. This trick is best done when sat down at a table with a tablecloth that people can't see what you're actually doing underneath the table, so you've got the same effect. You can do the whole thing just by keeping your foot hidden under the tablecloth. It works really well when you get a spectator from the audience to give them the cues to turn, to lift and raise and lower the hand. All you're going to do is sit back, and as long as you keep your foot in position and just watch the spectator for when they want that person to move, they can do the trick. That was idle hands, thank you.